Good afternoon. Welcome back to Passion World Talk Radio, a wholly owned subsidiary of Global Media Network, LLC. Educate, enlighten, entertain, mindfulness. And today on Lest We Forget Historical with Lillian, we are going to discuss this article that was written by Zeeshan Aleem. That's Zeeshan, last name Aleem. And his title is Why the Current Administration is Making an Unprecedented Effort to Scrub the Historical Record. A president hostile to accountability will try to keep the public and future generations in the dark. End of quote. A new Associated Press analysis of the current president, many records, raises the remarkable possibility that his administration could, quote, leave less for the nation's historical record than nearly any before. Of course, they said that about Richard M. Nixon, too, when he tried to destroy all his evidence. However, it is a useful lens for understanding how this president conceals information to evade accountability and undermine democracy. As the AP notes, there are many different ways that he is making it impossible to track what his administration is doing. Quote, his administration is scrubbing thousands of government websites of history, legal records, and data it finds disagreeable. It has sought to expand the executive branch's power to shield from public view the government slashing efforts of Elon Musk's team and other key administrative initiatives. Officials have used apps such as Signal, that's Signal, that can auto-delete messages containing sensitive information rather than retaining them for record keeping. And they have shaken up the National Archives leadership and even ordered the rewriting of history and display at the Smithsonian Institution. And you want to ask, why? Why are they doing this? This all comes as HuffPuff recently estimated that the White House has declined to release transcripts for about 80% of the president's speeches and interactions with the press so far. And in his first term involved many extraordinary attacks on record keeping, including reportedly routinely discarding papers in the White House fireplace, deriding his staff for taking notes, and tearing up documents into tiny pieces. Kind of makes you wonder how he was brought up. He also improperly stored classified material at Mar-a-Lago after he left office. And a subtitle goes, much as a mob boss detests a paper trail, he is averse to the idea of keeping records. As the Associated Press observes, the president is legally required to keep the historical record, but retention laws are difficult to enforce, which means that a lot of compliance with them effectively relies on the honor system. Well, since he doesn't have any honor, that's no problem for him, is it? His view of honor systems, of course, is that they are for suckers, and he knows that he stands to benefit from keeping the public in the dark and avoiding mechanisms for accountability. One way he gets to lessen real-time accountability to the public for his own positions, refusing to track and publish public remarks and circumventing traceable policy record-keeping makes it easier for him and those around him to shirk responsibility for lies, broken promises, policy flip-flops, or rhetoric that ages poorly. Kind of reminds you of the expansion out west and how the white government and president at that time treated the indigenous people. Something to think about. I bet you never thought you'd be treated like the indigenous people in the United States, even though, according to this president, you are full birthright citizens. Back to the article. He also gets to avoid accountability for future investigations, whether from Congress or elsewhere. Opinion. Well, he's the only president I know who has to threaten the Republicans saying, you better do as I say or you'll be sorry. End of comment. Much as a mob boss detests a paper trail, he is averse to the idea of keeping records of everything he and his inner circle are considering, as he constantly pursues schemes that push up against or transgress the law. Think about how text messages help make the impeachment case against his attempted quid pro quo with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky in his first term. Think about testimony revealing that then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows burned documents during the same period that he made efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Boy, you think he was a spy. Or at the end of the Civil War, where he and the Lincolns burned all the papers on Reconstruction so nobody wouldn't find out. He's also making it harder for future generations of scholars to study our political era and understand how his government worked and didn't. So, what you need to understand is that you have to demand that this man, who's president of your country, who took an oath to protect the country at the risk of his own life, he does something about it. Otherwise, you won't have anything to teach your children about looking out for somebody who wants to be king, who self-anoints himself to be God's rep, and a dictator all rolled into one. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. I hope you understood what we were saying with today's Lest We Forget Historical. Then President Richard Nixon also tried it, and he would have gotten away with it, except for Watergate, which happened during the 70s. Something for you all to think about. Lest We Forget Historical is brought to you by Ruby.ai. Check us out. Ruby, that's AI with Lillian.com. Takes you over to Ruby.ai. It has a complete demonstration of the total app, plus plenty of testimonials where you can read and see how wonderful AI really is. It will take you to a web page, and you can also sign up for a monthly subscription. AI is here to stay, folks. It's already going into the business world and all the other worlds that we have come to depend on. And in 3 years, it will be more complicated. So get in at the bottom and start learning it. And the other company called Conscious Research Solutions at passionalworldtalkradio.com/research made simple blog. Read all the pain points you may encounter when you're doing research. Find out how to resolve them and learn how to do your own research. But if you want help, please sign up for our free 15-minute consulting meeting. Click on the Calendly link. It'll take you into our calendar, Passional World Talk Radio. Sign up and learn all about our assistance and providing you with the best possible research that you can get. And if you want to hear the whole truth and nothing but the truth, then please consider donating to an all-women operational and run woman station. PassionalWorldTalkRadio.com/donation. Thank you very much for listening and have a great afternoon.